Oh my gosh, you made it. It's the last episode in the Lisa Curry residency. Please don't forget to go buy her album, Alive, for a while. And thank you folks for listening. If you haven't listened to parts 1, 2, and 3, this isn't going to make sense, but do whatever you want. Oh, hi, you're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and am uniquely qualified to discuss this as I currently work, or I used to work, at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles, and at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So, let's eat!
Like a rose.
And everybody's got a podcast. Okay, where were we? I don't remember where we were. Which is, oh, here we go. Okay. Telling a customer to fuck off. You had a story. You had another story. You were like, this is my favorite story.
Yeah. So again, at Hard Rock, I'm waiting on this couple. They're a little rougher on the edges, but they're polite enough. They're cold, but they're polite. At the time, I'm dating my ex, who's a big Raiders fan. And Hard Rock Cafe is next to the Raiders store. So that like this guy comes in with his girlfriend and he has like a Raiders keychain. And I was like trying to make conversation. I'm like, oh, Raiders. I was like, my boyfriend's a huge Raiders fan. And he's like, oh, cool. You know, like has this brand new keychain in a little package. I wait on them. They're fine. I'm not expecting much, but I'm like, well, whatever, you know, who gives a shit? I clear their plates. I drop their check and I was like, all right, I'll be right back to grab payment from you. I go to the kitchen. Which, by the way, is 100 miles away from the table.
Yeah, it is.
Or the dish room. Drop off the dishes. I come back. They're gone. And I'm like, they're gone. And, and there's nothing in the book. They left nothing. And I was like, oh, what the fuck? So I grab it and I see them walking out the front door. So I run to the front door. And I was like, hey, what's up, guys? Where are you going? And the guy goes, I thought we were supposed to pay at the host stand.
But he was already leaving, liar.
They're past the host stand. They're out the front door. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, I totally get it. I was like, no, you pay me. And he's like, oh, okay. So, like, kind of shuffles over to the machine with me because he does not want to pay. Hands me his credit card. I swipe it.
Declined.
At Hard Rock, no, it goes through.
Oh, okay.
At Hard Rock, you get, for listeners, or at the time with their system, you would get 2 exact copies. So it doesn't matter. By the way, it almost never matters what fucking copy you give us. Just sign. We need
Just sign something. We need the signature.
That's more important than the thing that says fucking merchant copy. I don't know why the computer even says that. It doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
We need a signature. So I hand it to him with his card. I'm still standing there with him. He's still with his girlfriend or whatever she is. He just sloppily signs it with no tip. And hands it to me. He goes, is this your copy? And I go, oh, no, my copy's the one with the tip on it. And he goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Takes it back, fills out a tip, hands it to me. And I was like, hey, let me get that keychain. And he's like, and fucking takes this brand new keychain out of his pocket and hands it to me. I was like, thanks, have a good night.
Wait, why did he give you the keychain? I don't understand.
I don't know. Why did I rob him? I have no idea. I think I was just so pissed, but I was like saying it in like a happy way. I was like, let me get that keychain.
Dead ass. And he's no reaction.
Okay.
He's like, cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Super fuck you.
Stiff me.
Fuck
because
you.
I would have been written up for that. And it's like,
yep. And in most cases, I mean, I've worked at a lot of places. The place where I work now or did work or whatever doesn't make us do this. But if customers walk out on a bill, very often your server has to pay that bill or your bartender or your whomever. So
they tried to get me to pay somebody's at Basics. And I told them, I was like, that's illegal. And they're like, it's not illegal. And I'm like, it is fucking illegal.
I think it is, like, isn't it? Actually,
it is illegal. And we went around and around. I was like, you can write me up. You cannot make me pay it. And they're like, you have to pay it. I'm like, absolutely not. And it was like a huge point of contention. And they eventually dropped it because it is fucking illegal. Wow. You can't make somebody pay a bill for somebody else that walked out. Sorry.
You.
That's part of owning a restaurant.
That's the cost of doing business. It's why it's like someone stealing a shirt out of the retail business. The markup
is like 75%. I'm not paying retail for somebody's food that they walked out on for the place I work at.
Yeah, for real. If you want me to pay it, I'm paying the rate you paid for this substandard dog meat that you're charging $30 for. Fuck you. Okay. Which is worse, Hard Rock Cafe or selling shit out of your trunk, like the coupon book job? Which is worse between the two?
Oh, coupon book job is
I
the
agree.
worst.
Okay. What's worse, Starbucks or working for your family?
Working for my family.
Okay. What's worse, house sitting
Although
or
I enjoyed the work more.
working for your family? You enjoy
ceilings, but painting I would take any day.
Well, you're good at that though. You like doing it. Yeah, you like doing it. What's worse, basics or marmalade?
Ooh, that's tough. Maybe basics, because marmalade, at least the ownership didn't treat us like we were not humans, and we got free soup. So that was my lunch every day, was free soup.
The low bar we set. What's worse, house manager or house sitter?
House manager. House sitter is a fucking breeze. I'll sit your house today.
What's worse, taking care of animals or taking care of people?
People.
Agreed. 100% agreed. How many bodily fluids have been on your person whilst you were on the clock?
Oh. One time, Kate, one time I was babysitting my cousin. Mm-hmm. I was like 15. I didn't have a license, but my older cousin, his dad, had a gambling problem. And so I couldn't babysit the night before. And he's like, all right, well, we'll go to the boat in the morning. This is like, you go to the boat in East Chicago to like gamble. He's like, we'll go to the boat in the morning. Can you be here at 9 a.m. or something? And I was like, yeah. So I get there and he's like, all right, Tyler's sleeping. When he wakes up, he's like, if you go sleep on the couch or whatever, you go back to bed, watch TV. He's like, when he wakes up, he'll start crying and you'll hear him. And then, go get him out of his crib. And I'm like, okay. I wake up to the cry of a velociraptor, like a blood curdling, I'm being stabbed multiple times, I'm on the edge of death scream, right? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I jump off the couch. I run into the room. Tyler had been put to bed in only a diaper. No pants to
catch
protect the diaper from being taken off. He had a lot of diarrhea. So much diarrhea. And had taken off his diaper. I wish this was the time of smartphones, because when I say every crevice of his body was covered in shit, it was under his nails. It was in his ears. I think he was screaming because it was in his mouth. It was on his eyelids. Like when
no.
It was on his eyelids, but when you know how mud dries and it starts to crack?
I'm crying.
It was dry and it was crumbling and it was in his eyelids, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm 15.
Ew.
I'm getting paid like
$1 an hour.
Every
I'm crying.
crevice of his crib was covered. God. And I was so scared that my cousin would think I was being neglectful. I still haven't told him to this day. He doesn't know. I called my sister-in-law freaking out. I scrubbed my baby cousin. I washed all of his bedding. I washed all of his toys. I soaked everything in the tub and then put it in the washer. I washed it through 2 cycles, and everything was back to normal seconds before my cousin got back home.
Oh my God.
It remains the most insane thing I've ever seen. I can't believe a kid even had enough shit to cover their entire body in.
And the whole room. Oh my God. Ew, that's the grossest. All right.
Horrifying. By the way, I didn't talk to that cousin for because I'm not that close with that cousin.
Right.
So I moved a few years later, didn't talk to that cousin, and then saw him like
the shit covered cousin or the cousin that was the dad?
Shit
covered cousin.
Saw him a couple years ago at Christmas dinner, and he's like, 20 or something, and or maybe like 22, and I told him this story in front of his new girlfriend.
Yes.
Like, you had shit in your eyelids. Do you understand?
Best cousin ever. All right, we're running. Wait, I don't want to lose time with you, so I got to get through these. Okay, do you tip?
Yeah.
How much?
Especially now. I mean, always 20%.
Okay.
Now during pandemics, 30 to 50%, depending on what I'm getting.
Okay, that's cool. Do you ever not tip?
No. Oh, you know what? You know where I don't tip? Starbucks.
Yeah, I'm off and on with that.
Coffee shops, I might give you $1, maybe.
I do $1.
For the most part, I don't. Just because I'm like, even when I worked there, I was like, why are people tipping us?
Yeah. Do you ever?
I'm not doing anything. I'm pouring coffee into a cup. It's not like bartending. I guess it kind of is. Tip if you can, guys.
They always should. Do you tip or do you not tip if the service is bad?
No,
you'll still
I'll
tip
less. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we all say. Have you ever been stiffed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Where is the one location that you got stiffed at the most? Which of
Hard Rock? Absolutely.
Yeah.
By a long
mile,
shot.
because it's tourists a lot, and it's people who don't want to spend $30 on a burger.
People walking out on their bill, or people storming out and then coming back to leave a note scrawled on cardboard that I should kill myself because I didn't serve them because they didn't have an ID.
Wow.
Just super fun. Just like I would get letters on the back of
who's got that kind of time?
Wrong. Who cares?
Oh, yeah. God. I just can't. Okay. Were you ever fired from a customer service job?
Was I?
Isn't this crazy, folks, that she doesn't have a yes to this automatically for how delightful she is?
Well, see, Hard Rock, that's a technicality because I avoided getting fired.
Great. So you did not get to, I know.
Managers.
You didn't get fired. That doesn't count.
And I had when I worked at the nightclub restaurant, the one of the managers was stealing from me, stealing from all of us. He was, because the servers would drop the tips in like the slot.
I know that they all do.
And then he's like, oh yeah, there's no tips for you this week. I'm like, that's not possible. My sister-in-law works with me. I'm sorry, she's family. She would not be.
That bar I bartended at in Santa Monica, where they always just decided what our tips. I just knew. I was like, no, this isn't.
And that manager that was stealing from us had been fired from his prior restaurant managing job for embezzling money.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So
and
there
they were
you go.
like, everyone deserves a second chance. I'm like, not about
financial shit. If you steal,
I'm not giving them a second chance.
No, bye.
So I was talking shit about him freely and openly, and he fired me. But I was friends with the owners. I was babysitting for the owners at the time. So they were like, don't worry about it. You're not fired. Come in tomorrow, which made him seethe with anger.
But also steal. So fuck him. Who cares?
But also fuck all the way off. And then he ended up getting fired shortly after that.
Shocking. Can you think of an example of the worst customer you've ever had to interact with or deal with?
Oh, God.
I know there's probably many, but just an example of one.
Oh, God. I can't think of one in particular.
Okay.
Like one doesn't even stick out, but there's a lot of people that have been real shitty.
Do you remember what any of the notes said that you got left on the back of the receipts?
Oh yeah, one girl when I first started bartending at Hard Rock, I made some girl's cocktail wrong, and rather than saying, "Oh, hey, I think this is wrong. Can you remake it?" Because who cares? She wrote me like a very long letter on the back of her didn't tip, and then wrote like a note about like how I don't know how to bartend and I shouldn't be doing my job, and it's like.
Who's got that kind of
last week?
Yeah.
Also, this isn't my fucking area of expertise. I don't care. I hope I don't know how to make these drinks. Are you joking?
Let me never know how. Fuck you. Okay, well that is it for the entrees. We're going on to the good stuff. We hope you saved room for dessert. Okay, what was the nicest thing a customer has done for you whilst you were working?
While I was working?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when I worked at Morton's, there was this guy was like a huge perv and would say gross shit to me. But every day he tipped me $100.
God damn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
You know who else is really great? And I'll say his name on record because he's fucking amazing. Tom Girardi. He was the lawyer on the Aaron Brockovich case. He was a regular.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm. And in law school, he waited tables. So for him, he was a regular. So we all knew that this was his thing. His policy is, I don't even want to look at the check. I'm not going to do the math. Add 25% for yourself and I'll sign it.
Wow. I mean,
every time, like and could not be more polite always. And it's like, you would think big gestures stick out, but really it's people that are just kind to you day in and out.
Girl,
yes. That really make a huge difference.
It's 100 small things because you're going there daily. So that $100 that you got once from one person is kind and awesome, but it is the day to day that makes it tolerable. Yeah. What's the best lesson you've learned from customer service? Not from comedy, but from customer service. It's something that you can say directly from having worked in it. You behave differently. I
think I definitely am more engaging with people and like ask them how they're doing. I think I have better manners because it's so every table you're like, hi, how's your day? Thank you so much. Like there's so many pleasantries that you're just in that
zone,
that headspace where then I go to the grocery store and I'm like checking out and I'm like, how's your day? You know, thank you so much. Have a great day. What, like you do the same things because you're so used to that being every single interaction. And I think also don't judge people and rob your boss. Like if your boss is not treating you well, rob them. One time when I was working at Basics, they were like, there was a guy that I was waiting on. He sat in my section. I had already started his order. And then the manager came over and he's like, I think that might be the guy that was here last week that walked out on his check. I'm certain. I think that might be. He's like, I think he's homeless. Go ask him tell him he has to pay before his food comes out. And I said, no.
That's bullshit. Like, no, you think you don't even know? Gross.
Yeah. And I was like, not only am I not telling him, I hope he doesn't pay because fuck these bitches that own this place. Yeah. They're greedy cunts.
Yeah.
And they should buy this homeless guy a meal if he is in fact homeless. Fuck you.
Fuck you. Oh,
and he paid and he tipped.
Bless him.
And it was like, man, everyone deserves to be treated well. And I've had different opinions over the years, but I've heard a lot of people say, well, if you can't afford a tip, don't go out. And
that's the whole tagline. That's the tagline of this whole podcast. So explain why it should not be the tagline, Lisa.
I think if you can't afford to tip, don't go out repeatedly. But if you're fucking struggling and you want to give your family one goddamn night out and that means giving your server 10%, go.
But that's a tip. 10%'s a tip though, girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Not tipping at all is a different thing. Like if you can only afford to tip a little bit, but I will say this, if you feel that you can't afford to tip, you better not be getting a $16 cocktail.
See, so
you better because it's like, we're still working our asses off, but it's a, I know that's like contradicting what I'm saying, but like, I understand needing to treat yourself.
Sure, yeah, but within the parameters, it's like I don't go to Mastro's because I can't afford Mastro's, and I certainly couldn't afford a tip. I may be able to
know how to rob them.
Yeah, but
so I don't go to Mastro's.
But it's like, I mean, I can go out within my means. I do think that there's something to be said for knowing your own limitations. I mean, it's a bummer, but it's like, yeah, I don't also get to live in $1 million home because I can't afford the mortgage. Exactly. I mean, okay, what's the, I already asked that. What's the best tip you've ever gotten? Was it that $100 or was there ever more than that?
One time when I was catering, and I looked up this woman recently because I remembered it out of nowhere, and she passed away, unfortunately. When I was catering,
turns out we all do.
On Thanksgiving, I worked a private party at this woman's house. Her name was Sharon Presser. This is how much of an impression it made on me that it stuck in my mind. And this is from over a decade ago. This is probably 15 years ago. I was so broke, and I worked at her house on Thanksgiving, and then she tipped me off the record. She tipped me cash $300.
Wow.
On top of, and it saved my fucking ass.
Oh, you don't even understand. In those moments, yeah, I've had that where I was like, oh, now I can pay rent because you just happen to be super generous at the 11th hour. Yeah.
It's also like, hey guys, people aren't working Thanksgiving because they love working Thanksgiving. They're working Thanksgiving because it's time and a half, and they're counting on you being a little bit more generous.
Being aware of the fact some of the worst tips I've ever gotten have been on holidays, and I just don't understand. I'm like, you think that I'm here on Christmas because I want to be with you and not my family? Like, well, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, here we go.
Rescind that comment.
What's one, this is the final question for dessert, and then because you've been on for 100 years, thank you for your time. What's one piece of advice you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers?
Always be nice. Don't be an asshole. There's no reason to be an asshole ever. I don't give a fuck what your day is because you don't know what my day is. And it's like, back to the beginning of this, like somebody could be working 3 jobs to survive. When I was working at Basics, a very good friend of mine died, and I found out on my shift, and I went to the bathroom and I quietly cried for like a minute, and then I had to pull myself back together and go out to tables and be like, would you like some more coffee? Like, I just found out a close friend of mine died. I have to keep it together through the end of my shift because I can't afford to miss out on the $40 I'm going to make through the rest of this shift. So it's like, you never know what somebody's going through, you know? And it's like, somebody could be fucking sick or under any amount of stress, and it's start out polite, and maybe Also, and this is just like a tip for life, if somebody's rude to you immediately, maybe it's because they're under a lot of stress. Try being nice first. If they continue to be a cunt, go after them.
Fuck them in a fire. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Lisa? You're a social media whore, particularly on Twitter. So what are your various handles, and how weird is it for you to not be touring the country right now? Like, you know, when does that happen again? When do you perform again? How do people get in touch with you?
Oh, oof, I don't know when I perform again, because I'm not one of those comics that's doing shows in the face of COVID. Good luck to you all. I hope you're all doing so well out there, and I'm glad to continue making sacrifices so you could do a fucking show in Arizona, you cunts. I have no idea when I'm going to be doing shows again. I hope it's early next year. That's
the hope.
What I'm banking on.
So what are your...
You can find me on Twitter at Lisa_Curry. You could find me on Instagram at Olympian Lisa Curry. Okay. And you could find all of my other information about... Oh, I have an album coming out September 2nd.
What? Bing, 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 bing.
My very first album.
Amazing.
You could find all that information on my website, lisacurry.net.
Amazing. Get her album. Well, folks, we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here at Service from Hell, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell your friends to listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled on the art of being kind. It will be catharsis for those of us working in the industry still. If you want to get in touch with us here at Service from Hell, send us your receipts or your questions or your comments at servicefromhellpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out, Lisa. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thanks for being on, Lisa. You gave us 600 years of your time.
Thank you so much for having me. And I think if you enjoy this podcast, you should Venmo Kate because she doesn't have a Patreon yet. Okay, thanks.
I love you. Oh, thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next week.